Hello, YouTube. We are back for the attack for the X-Men #1. I had to skip Wednesday's upload, so this is going to be uploading on Friday because I got COVID again. And I was feeling a little bit under the weather over the weekend and spreading into this week. So I'm feeling better now. And this is like the third time that I had COVID. So same thing, same symptoms, a little bit better than the first time I had COVID, but I was still in not the best of shape with a fever, and I just didn't feel well. But we're back to business now. So what are we going to do today? What we're going to do today, this is the last upload that we're going to have. And then the next one is going to be leaf casting. So I may be a little off in the way I'm speaking because I'm still a little sick. But it's the last upload prior to leaf casting. I guess that makes a little bit better sense. So last time we were here, we were tinkering with the color of the pulp. And if you recall, this was the color that I made, and I was unhappy with it, and I tinkered off camera, and this is the color that I ended with right here. And it's all nice and dry now, and I just want to give an example of how it matches, and it will blend, believe me, a lot better once it's leaf casted and it is smooth. But this is a nice representation of the off-white to tan, or white of the cover itself. And I think we'll be in pretty good shape with the way this is going to match. So I'm happy with it. So we have the pulp color. So we're good with that. So let me get this out. We'll put this away. We'll put it to the side. And then also what I want to do is I'll take the cover and we're going to put the cover back to the side, because underneath the first set of shelving units is the second shelving units, and underneath the first set of shelving units is the interior of the book. So let's open this up and let's get the interior out. And the reason why we want to get the interior out is I want to start doing some measurements, okay? And it's very important to do the measurements right, because one thing I've learned in working on many books and doing many leaf casting procedures with covers with completely split spines, you want to get the exact measurement of the book folded, okay? You want to do it folded. You don't want to do it laid flat, because when you fold a piece of paper, I believe it needs to be longer in order to cover the interior of the book. And I've made many mistakes. Actually, I made a few mistakes that I've learned off of in the past, where I always want to complete the interior of the book versus the cover first, then the interior, because you can turn up running a little short. And if you run short, what happens is you have to do it again. So right now, what I want to do is I want to measure my tailor's ruler up. And I just did it there, so we're measured to the 1. And I want to flip it around, and I want to get the distance of the bottom of the cover. So we're right on 35 centimeters. Let's translate what 35 centimeters is on inches. Uh-oh, we're going to have to do some real mathematics. So 35 centimeters, I'm sure there's people out there who are better in rulers than I am in measurements. So that looks like, in my opinion, it is 13 3/4 plus 1 line. So what the hell does that mean? We're going to write that down. 13 3/4 plus 1. That's how I do my measurements. The eighths and all those other little measurements that you have to use. I really skipped school during that time, and I didn't really follow and try to learn it. I was tuned out. But let's go back and let's put the centimeter side down, and let's get that right on it, just like this. And let's see if we can get the exact measurement with the inch side showing. That's probably a little bit better. And this is what I do. This is the mathematics portion of it, because you really want to get it right. So I'm looking at 13, and it actually is, 13 3/4 plus 1. So I was correct. So the cover has to be 13 3/4 plus 1 on the bottom, and let's check it on the top, because I really want it to be the same on the top and on the bottom, and we should be the same on the top and the bottom, because of this interior of the book was pretty square. So again, 13 1/4 plus 1. So it's the same measurement. So that's good. So we have a baseline in distance width-wise. The vertical measurement I'm not even going to do, because whatever the cover is what it is. We're not going to cut the existing cover to make it shorter. And I do leaf cast a little bit on the perimeter of the actual cover itself to give a little straight line and some distance. Now, this also right here is the exact measurement of the interior pages that I cut out with parchment paper. So what I want to do is I want to see if this will cover the cover itself. And as you can see, it doesn't. So this is going to be a little bit shorter. And I bet you if I measure the piece of paper that I used to cut, or the piece of paper that I used, the exact measurement of the interior wraps, this is it, laid flat. And I did that a few uploads ago. So let's see if this is actually 13 3/4 plus 1. And I bet you I'm off a little bit. So let's look. That's right. So this is 13 1/2. So essentially there's a 1/4 inch, that a 1/4 inch plus 1 that has to be made up for, because measuring it just by having the wraps laid flat, it builds up. It gets thicker and thicker each wrap that you put on, making the distance to cover every wrap folded more. So this I have 13 1/2 approximately going across. We need to add another 1/4 inch. So in order to do this correctly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of paper, and we are going to cut a piece of paper 13 inches wide, 13 3/4 inches wide plus 1, and then we're going to see if it fits the X-Men #1 interior, so we can make this perfect when we do the leaf casting, or as close to being perfect as possible. So hang loose, I'll be right back. Let's do some cutting, and I'll see you soon in a second. Okay guys, we're back. So what I did is I cut a piece of newsprint to 13 3/4 width, and this should be the width of the cover, hopefully. So by folding it nicely, we should be able to have it where the interior of the X-Men goes in, and we have a completely covered book. So right here I'm looking at it, and it does cover it nicely. There is a little tiny overlap, about 1/8 of an inch, which is fine. But this is the way we want it. This is how we want to cover it. So right here is our guide. So what does this mean, Jerry? What are we doing besides boring us with this shenanigans that you're doing, cutting things and playing with construction paper? Well, I'll show you what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we are going to cover this with a piece of parchment paper. Okay, just like this. And then what I want to do is I want to take the X-Men cover. We're going to take that out again. And I want to set it up so we can have it when we leaf cast. There's no guessing. And again, what does that mean, Jerry? No guessing. Is this a talk show game or a game show that we're going to be guessing with things? No. I don't want to guess the measurements of the cover. I want to make it where we have it where it's spot on, and I can just place it nicely on the leaf casting table, and we can do our work with the leaf casting without having to worry about whether it's wide enough, whether we are thick enough. So we can do it, and we have it done once, and that's it. So right here, I am looking, and I think we're going to be pretty good just like this. So what does that mean, pretty good, Jerry? What does this mean? Well, first I want to check the bottom, and I want to try to get it as straight on the bottom as possible. Just like this. And we're going to see if I can get it where I'm going to put a piece of Tengojo on the bottom, and I'm going to put a piece of Tengojo on the top. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about now. Okay? So what I want to do is this is the math involved with this, guys. I've becoming a little bit more particular with the geometry in doing the leaf casting, because we want to try to line everything up as perfect as possible. So right here, I'm checking the bottom, and it looks like the back cover has to be dropped a tiny bit so we can try to make it lined up on the bottom. So let's drop the bottom cover just a tiny bit, just like that. And that should be good. Let's see. Let's check it out, and let's see if that lines up. So I'm happy with the way that's lining up. Okay? So what I want to do is I just want to do a rough measurement from the top and the bottom, and I'm looking, and it looks pretty good. And we will measure before we cut it, because we'll make it square that way, if it makes sense. So what are we going to do, Jerry? What I have right here is Tengojo. This is Tengojo. We all know Tengojo, right? All I want to do is I want to cut a little strip just like this, because I am going to attach a piece of Tengojo on the bottom, just like this. And the reason why we're going to attach a piece of Tengojo just like that on the bottom is that is going to be our hinge. That is going to hold it where I know that I can just lay it on the Polytex, and that will give me my distance in order to make it where the cover is square and it's in the shape that I wanted. So right here, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to slowly glue this down with the methyl cellulose. And believe it or not, what's going to happen is this part of the cover is going to be, in fact, covered with the pulp that I made, because I am going to put the leaf casting pulp around the perimeter of the interior of the cover, as well as in the interior of the spine that's not there, in order to make sure that it blends and it reinforces the whole cover. So right there, I just dried up my methyl cellulose, and I dried up the hinge that I created with the Tengojo. See? So now what I want to do is I want to put a drop of methyl cellulose, not a lot, on the other half, just like this. Just a little bit. And that's it. See? Just like that. Boom. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to dry it out very quickly. And then we have our hinge on the bottom. And this is all this is just a guide that we have. So now we know, like I said, when we put it down on the Polytex, that we have the cover just the way we want it. We have it without any issue, where it shouldn't shift, because I want to leaf cast this the next upload, and I want to get hot and heavy with it. This is a long project, and I want this finished for the good of conservation. So that's good on the bottom. Now I want to do the same thing on top. So I'll take my clear ruler away. Let me just make any adjustments to make sure everything looks copacetic, and I think it does. And then I will put the clear ruler on top, and then we'll put a little hinge, I say right here. We'll put at least a little piece of Tengojo, which is going to be covered by the leaf casting pulp, so it's not an issue, and it gives a little reinforcement, a tiny bit. So let's put it over here. Let's see, maybe a little longer piece. Yep, right here. And let's put it down, and let's make sure we have a piece that's long enough, because if it's not long enough, we're wasting our time. And that's one thing I do not want to do, is I do not want to waste my time. I'm trying to do all of this conservation with books as efficiently as possible under my circumstances. This is a part-time fun hobby that I am doing, but it is a labor-intensive hobby. And I know a lot of people ask, how long does it take for you to do the book? And a lot of times I don't really keep time. And the videos and the uploads that I put on YouTube is sometimes just a small portion of the time that it takes to do this. But again, I'm not complaining. I do enjoy it. And I'm thinking about maybe cutting down the uploads to 2 times a week, because it is a lot of work to put out content 3 times a week, which I do. So maybe I'm going to cut it down, because I feel that sometimes I put out too much content and my views suffer, because the content that I put out, sometimes you're talking about an hour a week, that if people watch my channel and if they want to keep up with the work on the book, it's a lot. And I get it. So if people are watching, tell me what you think. Twice a week, 3 times a week. Should I keep it the way it is? You know, I do these short videos, and the shorts I do get more views a lot of times than my major big long videos. And I'm thinking that perhaps maybe because they're too long, the uploads, people can't invest that much time to watch it. I don't know. Maybe there's just not a really extreme major following for conserving books. It's not the mainstream. It's a little subset of comic community things, and people like other topics versus this stuff. I get it can be boring if you're not into it. Okay, so let's now go and let's put the other part. I just knocked it out of square right there. No big deal. We can fix it. And let's go and let's put it on the cover. And I don't want to put that much methyl cellulose. I just want to put a little bit, and that's enough. Let's see if we can heat it up nicely and dry it out, because it's very important to dry out the methyl cellulose. And you can't put a lot of methyl cellulose on with Silver Age books, because if you put a lot of methyl cellulose on, the problem is that sometimes you can have graphic pull. And it could be not intentional. There's never intentional graphic pull. But what happens is that the methyl cellulose will adhere to the graphics in the front of the cover, and it will attach to the reme or any other non-stick paper that you're trying to use, and it can cause problems. Silver Age books are very, very fickle. You have to be very careful with the Silver Age books. I say this day in and day out. They're not the easiest to work on. They really aren't. And you have to be very careful when you're working on them. And to be honest, they're one of my least favorite books to work on. But I can tell you one thing, is that I am definitely getting a tremendous amount of experience working on this book. It's teaching me to be patient, and you just have to be careful and take your time. Golden Age books, forget about it. You can do what you want with them within reason. So, now what do we have? We have the hinged section of the cover. It is connected. And now, this is what I want. So I can place it down on the leaf casting table when I'm ready to rock and roll. And we have the measurements set up. So that's it, guys. I'm going to cut the video. I'm going to put this cover into my press again. We're going to put it back in, and we're going to let it press together just like this, just the way I did it. And then next upload, we're going to get rocking and rolling with the leaf casting. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate the support. And stay tuned.